Ever feel like you're hitting a wall? Pushing and pushing, but not really getting anywhere?
Or just that nagging feeling that things could be more.
Yeah. More fulfilling, like you're capable of so much more.
It's interesting because what we often miss is that unlocking that more isn't about some external trick. It's way more internal.
Right. Welcome to the deep dive,
Oh.
where we tackle these big questions in a way that doesn't require, like, hours of your time.
Powerful insights, but quick and digestible.
Exactly. And today, we're going deep on something called your self-image, that picture you have in your head of who you are.
And stick with us on this one because this isn't just fluffy self-help stuff.
No way. Understanding the self-image thing, well, it can be seriously powerful stuff.
Think about it. You're probably here because you want to handle life's curveballs better, right?
Hmm.
Find more satisfaction.
Totally. And understanding your self-image is like a secret weapon for that. It's about seeing the stuff that's driving your experiences, even if you don't realize it.
It's like the hidden architecture of your mind.
Okay, so that's what we're doing today. Extracting the key principles about self-image, how it affects your abilities, happiness, everything. Practical stuff you can use right away.
And that leads right into a question for you.
Yeah.
How aware are you of these beliefs that kind of run the show in your mind?
Good question. Okay, so one of our sources calls this a revolutionary idea, and it's pretty simple. Everything you do, everything you feel, how you act, even what you believe you're capable of, it's all lined up with that picture you have of yourself.
It's kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy in a way.
Right. Imagine someone who deep down thinks they're just not a success kind of person. They'll probably end up sabotaging themselves, even when they get a great opportunity.
Like their internal compass is pointed in the wrong direction.
Totally. And this whole idea actually came from, get this, a plastic surgeon.
Oh, wow. How so?
Well, he noticed that after people had facial stuff corrected, their personalities changed, like big time.
Interesting.
Yeah, shy people, suddenly outgoing, people who were seen as not so bright, were suddenly killing it in their careers.
So it wasn't just about how they looked on the outside.
Nope. And get this, the source material talks about this salesman whose confidence tanked after he got a small scar. And then there were all these people who wanted plastic surgery for flaws that weren't even real.
It's wild how much power our inner picture holds.
For sure. So having a realistic, and this is key, an adequate self-image, it's like the foundation for a good life. And by adequate, we don't mean perfect.
It's more about being okay with yourself.
Exactly. Now buckle up. This is where it gets really cool. Our sources talk about your brain and nervous system working like a goal-striving machine, like a really advanced autopilot.
Guided by, like, cybernetic principles.
Yeah. Think of it like a thermostat. It has a target temperature, in this case, your self-image, and it's always working to keep it there.
But here's the thing. This system isn't deciding if your goals are good or bad. It just wants to reach them.
Exactly. So if you've got those empowering beliefs underneath, it becomes a success machine.
But if those beliefs are negative?
Well, then it's working just as hard to make those happen. Wow.
Right. One source uses the example of picking up a cigarette. Seems simple, but there's tons of signals going on in your brain. Your hand movements, visual feedback, and tiny adjustments until you get that cigarette.
It's crazy how much is happening behind the scenes for even a simple action.
Right. Even a baby figuring out how to grab a toy, all those wobbly tries, it's all part of that process.
And as we practice things, that whole process gets smoother, right?
Totally. And once we get it right, our brain kind of stores that success and turns it into a habit.
It's like our internal filing system.
Right. And when you're trying to remember something, like a name that's right there, but you can't quite get it, your brain is actually searching through all those stored memories to find the right one.
Like a super fast search engine.
So we've got this amazing success mechanism built in.
Yeah.
But here's the first key to using it. Imagination.
Imagination. Yeah. And our sources have tons of examples of how powerful this is. Like this guy who was convinced his nose and ears made him look ridiculous. His mental picture of people laughing at him, it became his reality. He wouldn't even go out.
So his belief shaped how he interacted with the world.
Exactly. It wasn't that people were actually laughing at him. It was his belief. Even something simple, like someone mistaking a dog in a bear costume for a real bear, shows this. Our nervous system reacts to what we believe is real, even if it isn't.
It doesn't really know the difference between an actual threat and something we just imagine.
Exactly. And this is where we get to synthetic experience. Your nervous system, a lot of the time, can't tell the difference between something that actually happened and something you imagined really vividly.
So you're saying that just imagining something can have a real impact.
Totally. There are studies where people got better at things like dart throwing and basketball just by imagining it, practicing in their minds. And there are examples of people overcoming huge fears, getting more confident, even like influencing the outcome of high pressure situations, all through this mental stuff.
So we're talking about like daydreaming here.
Not exactly. Our sources are pretty clear that you have to actively experience these things in your mind, not just think about them.
So it's about more than just understanding it intellectually.
Right. That active part is key to changing those pathways in your brain, actually shifting things, which leads to this idea of dehypnotizing ourselves from all those false beliefs we carry around.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, our sources talk about how those beliefs, even the ones we don't realize we have, can act like, well, hypnotic suggestions. They limit what we do and what we think we can do.
That makes sense.
Like one source talks about this Dr. Adler who struggled with math, and it turned out a teacher had casually said he was dumb in mathematics when he was younger.
And they just stuck with him.
Yeah, and it held him back for years until he realized it wasn't even true.
It's amazing how a single comment can have such a lasting impact.
Right. And then there's this businessman who believed he didn't look like a successful executive.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, and it was holding him back from speaking confidently in public. Again, it wasn't a real thing. It was all in his head.
So how does hypnosis actually play into this?
Well, you know how people under hypnosis do all these crazy things? They can because they totally believe what the hypnotist is telling them.
Right.
Our sources are saying that our own strong beliefs, no matter where they came from, have that same power over us. So it doesn't matter where the limiting belief came from. If you believe it's true, it's going to affect you. There are even cases where students do badly in school because they've labeled themselves as not smart.
Like they're fulfilling their own prophecy.
Exactly. There's this story about Mr. Russell who believed he was cursed by voodoo.
Wait, seriously?
Yep. And he started experiencing real physical symptoms because of it. It shows how powerful our beliefs can be over our bodies.
The mind-body connection is wild.
Totally. There's another example, though, of an athlete who was hypnotized and suddenly had way more grip strength. It wasn't that he got physically stronger. The hypnosis just removed a mental block.
So it dehypnotized him from his own limitations.
Exactly. Okay, so we've talked about how this success mechanism works, how powerful imagination is, and how negative beliefs can trap us. Now the question is, how do we let this inner system actually work for us?
Yeah, good question.
Our sources are big on relaxing that conscious control, not overthinking everything. While our thoughts are powerful, they can also create negative feedback loops when we doubt ourselves all the time.
So sometimes trying to force things actually gets in the way.
Exactly. There's this conscious thought control method one source talks about. It helps you get back to feeling joyful and productive by focusing on the present moment instead of getting stuck in the past.
So stop beating yourself up over past mistakes.
Exactly. Because it's actually counterproductive. William James, he was a big thinker in psychology, said that once you've made a decision, just relax and let things happen without interfering all the time. Bertrand Russell said something similar, that you should think hard about a problem and then let your subconscious mind work on it while you're relaxing.
It's like letting your brain do its thing in the background.
Right. Think of a pianist playing a difficult piece. They aren't thinking about every single finger movement. They've practiced so much it's become automatic.
Makes sense.
Mastering anything is like that. You get to a point where you can relax and let the task take over instead of overthinking it.
So where does happiness fit into all of this?
Happiness. Our sources say happiness isn't some external thing you chase. It's an internal state where you're thinking pleasant thoughts most of the time.
So it's more about your mindset than your circumstances.
Exactly. It comes from your thoughts and attitude, not from stuff you own or your situation. Lincoln famously said, "Most people are about as happy as they make up their minds to be." And Dr. Chappell, another source, agrees. He says happiness is something you can build from the inside out, regardless of what's happening around you.
It's empowering to think that we have control over our own happiness.
For sure. A lot of unhappiness seems to come from how we react to those little daily frustrations. The driver who honks, the bus that's always late.
Things that normally wouldn't bother us too much.
Right, but they can feel like personal attacks, like they're messing with our self-esteem.
So how do we deal with that?
Well, our sources talk about shifting from passively reacting to those things to having a more proactive, goal-oriented mindset. There's this example of a businessman who wasn't upset about losing money. He was upset because it meant he didn't reach his goal.
It's about how we frame things.
Exactly. So the idea is to practice healthy-mindedness, even if it feels forced at first. One source tells the story of a scientist who was always gloomy and had headaches. He started focusing on positive memories, things he was grateful for, and dreams for the future, and guess what?
What happened?
His mood lifted, his headaches went away, and he had positive changes in his career and personal life.
Wow, that's amazing.
It shows how much power our thoughts have.
For sure.
Okay, we've covered a lot about how self-image works in creating a more positive inner world, but our sources also give this really helpful framework for understanding what makes a success-type personality. They call it success.
Success.
Yeah, it's an acronym.
I like a good acronym. Makes it easier to remember.
Exactly. So S stands for sense of direction.
Makes sense. Got to know where you're going.
Right. Like, there's this advertising executive who lost his confidence but got it back when he focused on his goals. It's about having that clear vision, knowing what you're aiming for.
Because without that, you're just drifting.
Exactly. U is for understanding.
Understanding.
Yep. Not just trying harder, but really understanding why certain bad habits just don't work for you.
So figuring out why you do the things you do.
Right. And then C is for courage. And not just big heroic stuff.
Everyday courage.
Exactly. The courage to go after your ideas even when you don't know how they'll turn out.
It's about pushing yourself.
For sure. And the second C is charity.
Charity. As in giving to others.
Yep. But it's also about having that same kindness and understanding for yourself.
Interesting.
Yeah. The sources say to appreciate people, consider their feelings, and treat them like they're important.
Sounds like a recipe for good relationships.
Right. And that translates back to how you treat yourself, too.
I see.
Then we have E for esteem.
Self-esteem.
Yeah. Low self-esteem can be crippling. So this is about accepting yourself, even with all your imperfections.
Because everyone has those.
Totally. That's the foundation for a healthy self-image. Next is S, again, this time for self-confidence.
And how do you build that?
It's not something you're born with. You got to earn it. It comes from all those past successes, no matter how small.
So it's like a snowball effect.
Yeah, those little wins build up. And finally, the last S is for self-acceptance.
Which brings us back to being okay with yourself.
Exactly. Sense of direction, understanding, courage, charity, esteem, self-confidence, and self-acceptance.
Success. I like it.
Right. It's a pretty good picture of what makes a successful person tick.
It's actionable advice.
Exactly. And that brings us to the end of our deep dive today. The big takeaway here is that understanding your self-image and working on it, it's not just some optional extra. It's a crazy, powerful way to change your life, make it more successful and happier.
It's about taking control of your inner world.
So as you go about your day, think about this. If your thoughts and imagination are so powerful, what's one belief you have about yourself, maybe a small one, that you could start questioning and reshaping today?
Because you have that power.
Right. You can choose how you see yourself. Thanks for diving deep with us. We hope this gives you some stuff to chew on.
And maybe even spark some changes.
Now go out there and explore that potential you've got inside.
You got this.
We'll see you on the next deep dive.